Today, I want to tell you the story of the unlikeliest hypebeast fashion brand that's ever existed. This is the story of how one man created one of the most enduringly popular luxury brands of the past 2 or 3 decades. And the story starts back in Japan in the 1990s when a young Mihara Yasuhiro was out of art school and got a job working for the Japanese fashion designer Issey Miyake. Now that is one of the best jobs you could possibly get coming out of school, and I'm sure he learned a lot of great things there, but Mihara Yasuhiro decided it was time to strike out on his own, and a year or two of rocky roads, false starts. In 1997, he ended up creating the brand Mihara Yasuhiro, which was focused around footwear. Now you may recognize that name, Mihara Yasuhiro. Well, that's because nowadays his brand is called Maison Mihara Yasuhiro, and it is honestly one of the most shockingly popular brands in recent years. And if you're familiar with MMY, as some people refer to it as, it's probably because of their shoes, so it's kind of come full circle for him. What he's popular for now are these kind of, formless, like clay-like takes on Converses and Vans. They're very, very interesting, and if you ever have a chance to try some, I encourage you to do so. But it took a long way for Yasuhiro to build himself up to the point where he's at now, because he started in 97, we're now in 2024. That's a long time. So obviously he started off with the shoes, but soon began branching out into clothing. And here's what I love so much about the work of Mihara Yasuhiro is that it is playful. It doesn't take itself too seriously, unlike a lot of the modern, hypey Miami core brands. And what he does is he takes things that are familiar, kind of basics or staple pieces or uniform pieces, and he adds a single twist so that you look at them differently, whether it's an enlarged zipper or a playful touch on a denim piece. He's always just tweaking things ever so slightly so that it's something that you've never seen before. It's something that you've seen a million times, but not in this exact way. And it has a slightly kind of distressed, thrashed, treated, punky vibe, which is very much up my alley. And what I really like about Mihara Yasuhiro, especially having literally decades of the brand under his belt, there's a lot of history there, and he's not afraid to switch things up, try new things, different styles, different aesthetics. So what I want to do today is look at 3 sides of Mihara Yasuhiro, perhaps ones that you haven't explored before if you're just familiar with things like the shoes. So we have 3 pieces here. We've got one that investigates really the playful side of Mihara Yasuhiro, one to look into the more punk side, and finally, we've got to look at Mihara Yasuhiro's roots and look at a pair of nicer, more formal footwear, but of course with a twist, as you can see. And I'm hoping by the end of this, after we look at the details, after we try them on, you will come away with a greater respect for Yasuhiro. You won't just say, oh, it's the guy that makes the clay-looking Converses. No. This guy is serious. He's been around for a long, long time, and it's so sick that he is finally getting his due. Let's dive in.
Listen up, freaks. I have been relayed a great prophecy, and that prophecy is
that you will join my Patreon. Why will you join my Patreon? Well, because on there I post an exclusive video every single month only for patrons, and you'll get exclusive access to my private Patreon Discord where we have fashion discussions, talk about pickups, legit checks, and I post stuff for sale that has been featured on the channel. You could even get shouted out in my videos. For instance, thank you, Henry K, for being a $20 patron. Anyway, there's tons of perks. Go join. You know, I think I'm gonna go into the private Discord and post this Rick Owens hoodie for sale right now. So goodbye. I'll talk to you later, okay? All right, we've got 3 pieces to check out, and what I love about these is that none of them are quite like the Maison Mihara Yasuhiro that you're probably used to seeing in boutiques today. But let's get started off with this top piece and look at the playful side of Yasuhiro. So this is a beautiful short sleeve button down shirt from, I believe, the late 2000s. And this was when it was still just Mihara Yasuhiro. It hadn't added the Maison yet. That didn't happen until I think like a decade later. But this shirt, it looks simple, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. Remember how I said that Yasuhiro likes to take things familiar and then twist them? Well, that's exactly what he's done here in a couple of ways. And the really standout element here is this. Oh, it's a tie, whatever. No, do you see this? It's buttoned down. Why is the tie buttoned down? Because it's part of the button closure. It's part of the shirt. It's part of the collar. This could be loose. It could be not loose, whatever, but it is a built-in element. And I think it's also very interesting that he decided not to make it really obvious and change the tone of it, like a black tie on a white piece. It's supposed to blend in to camouflage in a way. And that's so cool. And also just really fun and kind of silly. So this one, it is a Mihara Yasuhiro piece, as we said, and it's noted as being made in Tokyo. Love it. And the piece is 100% cotton in a size small. We'll definitely talk about sizing later on. And don't overlook some of the more standard quote-unquote elements here, because they're also really nice. Like the fabrication here is a nice like subtle window pane, woven like Oxfordy type of fabrication. And then you've got these dual kind of like safari pockets at the front chest, very nice. And then one really cool element here that took me a while to wrap my head around is what's going on at the sleeves, because you can see they're not quite right. They're getting pulled and tussled here, and that's because of this strap here, which intentionally does not let the sleeve lay flat. It is always going to be pulling it up ever so slightly, giving it an unfinished type of look. So I think this is just a beautiful example of how Yasuhiro uses these familiar styles and then just turns them on their head ever so slightly. Next up, we have to look at the punk side of Mihara Yasuhiro because I do think it is an integral part of the brand's identity. Now, this piece, I believe, is a few years newer than the last one we looked at, and I absolutely adore this. As you can see, it is a knit, and it is also heavily distressed. And here, I feel like you can see a lot of the overlap with some of Yasuhiro's contemporaries, like the work of Undercover or Takehiro Miyashita at both Number 9 and The Soloist, and also going all the way back to Comme des Garçons. It's very clearly punk-inspired, kind of grungy 90s, and it's being done in a very interesting way. Like, it is a literally unstable piece, but somehow at the same time, it all manages to stay together. So there's this very unique balance, but also unease happening within this piece at all times. So you can see the tag, it is slightly different from the last one there. I think I prefer this one. That's really cool. And this one is a size 44, so probably pretty slim. But the thing that really took me a while to try and like get my head around was the material and the treatment of the material, because it is very textural. Like, it has peaks and valleys. The black seems to come out a bit further than the white, and at places it's fully fallen apart to the point where it's sheer and see-through, like kind of a spider web type of thing. But at the same time, it is very concise and sensible, because if you look at the inside of it, this is actually the side that most brands would use as the outer of the piece. Because unlike this actually looks like a very comprehensible and understandable, like, grunge 90s sweater. But Mihara Yasuhiro chose to use the unstable side, and I think that is something that carries through pretty much all of his work. So I'm really interested to see how this one looks on, how it can work out in a fit, because I do have very high hopes for it, because this style is just incredible. And don't forget, I mentioned that Yasuhiro started with footwear all the way back in '97, so we should definitely close out by looking at a pair of Mihara Yasuhiro shoes. Now, if you're familiar with Yasuhiro today, it is probably for the sneakers, and these are incredibly different. This goes back to the classical styles of shoemaking. It's a very classic dress style, but with a punk, modern, kind of deconstructivist look. So this is a pair of brogues. That's what it means when you've got this like perforated detailing happening. And I really like that you can see like the raw nature of the leather coming through. So it's kind of a black with brown undertones due to this perforation. And that detail's really nice going around the laces and around the back up to the heel counter. One thing that's really cool is that it is a stacked leather sole, but with layers of rubber. So the bottom layer for the heel is rubber, and also this middle layer that turns into the sole for the body of the shoe is also rubber. And that heel is really cool. I'm assuming that gives it some good grip. You've got the logo pressed in there, Right there it says made in Japan, and this is a size 27, so that's in centimeters, but that's like a US size 10. And you get the logo once again at the bottom there. But of course, the real twist of this piece is the kind of like digital camo treatment at the toes. My cat likes these shoes, apparently. Don't do anything weird to them, please. Oh God, no, no. He didn't do anything. They're safe. He's walking away. Godzilla has exited. Anyway, as you can see, these are like worn a bit. They're crumpled in there, but don't let that fool you. These are still a great pair of shoes. And the treatment is actually really interesting because it's almost seamless. You can't tell where it starts. It's not like they're just painted on. You can see, oh, here's where they started painting. It seamlessly transitions into this camo. And I'm guessing what they did is that they did the coloring, the painting, whatever printing they did on this, and then they kind of like lacquered it. Because you can see it's like a patent leather, very, very shiny, and that makes it all seem of a piece. So really smartly done here and shows the massive amount of experience and decades of work that he's put into making shoes. And something like this could totally fit into like a Balenciaga closet. This really does heavily read as something that Demna would have done in like 2018, 2019 for Balenciaga. I like that the inner tags on the shoes are actually like asymmetrical. One has the brand name, but the other just has the logo, the like sunburst. And then inside, it's really, really well made. Like you can see the stitches going on the inside there. So it is a very authentic, like legit type of craft for the shoes. And I also like, again, he's always working with that imbalance, that unfinished nature. So you've got like a raw tongue right here. And you can see the kind of raw leather coming in on the underside. So to me, something like these shoes is as pure as it gets when it comes to Yasuhiro. And I love that we have three pieces here that show three different but connected sides of the designer. These pieces are so cool. And hopefully you're now starting to see why I have so much respect for Mihara Yasuhiro as a designer and why I'm so glad that his work has been resonating more and more over the past few years. But now we've got to try these pieces on. But we can't just try these on. We need some other pieces around them. We got to create some fits. So let's see what else we're wearing. So we already have two tops here. We've already got shoes. So first we need some pants. And I'm going to lean into like the punk elements, the undertones that are always there with Yasuhiro. So I'm going to use these Saint Laurent studded distressed jeans from the Eddie Slimane era. Those are always going to work well. And then I think we just need some outerwear. And for that, we are going to go ERD. This is the Christ Assemblage bomber. And it's got these like Bad Religion safety pin things going on at the chest. Love it. Let's see what happens. I'm excited for this. While I am a really big fan of Mihara Yasuhiro, I don't get to wear that much of his stuff, so I'm as excited to check these out as you are. But first we gotta get the rest of the fit together, so first we're gonna start with the Saint Laurent studded distressed jeans. These are from late in Eddie Slimane's time at the house before he moved on to Celine. These have a nice cut, slightly low rise, definitely skinny, but just that classic Saint Laurent style. And moving right along, we can put on the first Yasuhiro piece of this fit, and those are the digital camo, I don't know, almost like trompe l'oeil dress shoes. And throwing these on, I think they're sick. They're subtle, you know, they're simple. This is a classic pair of like patent leather brogues, but they just have this effect, this ombre that goes into the digital camo at the tips of the toes. So it's just a single twist on a classic style, which is classic Mihara Yasuhiro. But they do feel very well put together, which, you know, I'm glad to see, and you would expect from somebody who got their start in footwear just like this. All right, now let's try out this tie shirt. Yeah, so it's the short sleeve shirt in white with the button-down tie front. And this is just so interesting, and you can tell this is from the 2000s because it reads as like American Idiot era Green Day, rock revival, skinny tie era. This was, I think, made right when that whole vibe was starting to wind down. But by buttoning the tie down and making it part of the shirt, it starts to transition. Like this, I think, kind of feels a bit like RAF SIMONS, someone like that. So it's definitely not out of place at all in an archivist closet, you know? But I find this really interesting, both button down and unbuttoned, let it free, undoing the button flap straps at the sleeves is interesting. You can just let those hang down, or there's an extra button if you want to cinch them up even further. That would take some balls right there. But this by itself, kind of, I don't know, it reads as like missionary a little bit. You know what I mean? Not like sexual missionary, like Mormon missionary, you know? Let's get some outerwear on here, get the like punk vibes flowing into this even more. And when you layer this with something black, that's where you really start to get the rock revival thing coming in. And it actually almost starts to look like a tuxedo or something, like a street tuxedo. I don't know even how to say it or how this happened. It wasn't intentional, but I do find it really interesting. And you can dial up the street even more by throwing on a hat, things like that. But I do think this is actually a very interesting layering piece, one that I wouldn't have sought out on my own if it didn't appear to me as I was looking for Mihara Yasuhiro stuff, but I'm glad I got to try this one out. All right, but now I want to move along to a piece that is much more up my typical alley, like regardless of whether this was Mihara Yasuhiro, if I saw something similar from, you know, Number 9 or The Soloists or Undercover or even Rick Owens, like this is my kind of vibe. So throwing this on, there's so many things to like here. First of all, it's a very long line, lengthy. It makes the proportions, I think, really nice and work well. Long sleeves, and I love the differences in texture. Like there's some parts where it's more stable and put together and solid, and others, like the whiter parts, become more tattered and see-through. And I think this is just gonna continue, honestly, falling apart over time, but I feel like that's intentional. I feel like the degrading of this piece is an integral part of it. It is a V-neck, which isn't like something I go to all the time, so I'm definitely throwing on like a necklace here, throwing on some rings, definitely just upping the punk dial as much as I can. And when I say punk in these videos, some people have taken issue with it. I'm not talking about like the movement of punk, the philosophy of punk. I'm talking about punk as a style, a fashion style. Some people don't like that. My punk bona fides are as solid as anybody's, so I feel like I can claim it. And this one I think would play well with additional accessories too. Like if I were to throw on this RAF SIMONS Eastpak bag, I think that looks great. Those D-rings going up the strap really dial it up and play well off of the jeans. And then since it's so long, to layer it with outerwear, I do think I would tuck this in. And when you do that, I don't know, it suddenly starts to look a bit more like upscale indie sleaze type of thing. I don't know if you call it indie sleaze. I'm gonna coin hardcore sleaze. That's what I'm calling this one, and I feel like honestly that's a good descriptor of my general style. Let's throw the ERD Christ assemblage bomber back on, see how this works out. And yeah, a nice oversized open layer on top of this, changes the proportions of it, gives it a little bit more intrigue. Yeah, I vibe with this 100%. Throw the bag back on, and you've got a full ass going outfit. You're ready to go here. Yeah, this sweater is all sorts of good. Make sure you let me know which one was your favorite. I think I'm going for the sweater personally. And big ups to my main man, Mihara Yasuhiro. Even before he tacked on the Maison to his brand name, he was killing it. He'd been killing it. Definitely do not sleep on him, especially the older stuff. All right, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you think. Have you had any experience with Yasuhiro stuff? Do you think I'm right? Do you think he's overblown, overhyped? Let me know. Do all these things like liking and commenting that help me in the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you next time.